So on this video, we're going to talk about how to close the sale on those account rounds from renewal calls. So where possible, we really want to think about quoting the extra policy wherever we can on the phone with the customer. Now, you may be feeling a little uncomfortable about this, but it is going to drive the highest closing ratio. Oftentimes, we're going to go right to that same carrier that we already have the piece of business with. So it's not going to be a huge, long ordeal. Every now and again, you might find that by adding on this extra line, they're no longer a good fit, or that you might need to break up the package or move the client altogether. But again, 80% of the time, we should be able to quote this over the phone because it's got the highest chance for success. And every time we leave a customer, remember that reconnect keeps decreasing. If we have somebody interested now, let's seize the day and go for it. If for some reason you absolutely cannot quote that on the phone with the person, set a time that's agreed upon by both parties to review their options. So this might be like, hey, Kelly, what time tomorrow can we connect so I can show you our options? There should be a confirmed date and time. That way you know that there's a connection to be made. It's also really important that we set a deadline for people to make a decision. So oftentimes say, great, I'll think about it, I'll let you know, but we really lose that opportunity to keep the process going. So for non-essential policies, people need to have a sense of urgency. A non-essential policy might be like life insurance or an umbrella policy or cyber liability, EPLI, disability. We have to remind people that pricing does fluctuate. Pricing can change, that the quote that you're giving, if they're interested, it's the best time to move forward now. Always ask, when can you get the application back to me? So that way you know when they're thinking about responding to you. But we have to set a sense of urgency to increase our sales. When there's no deadline, people tend to kind of just go off into space. You need to bring that home with a deadline. To follow up on account rounds, once they've said yes, you've sent out the application or you've sent out the quote and they haven't said yes yet, we want to avoid emailing quotes. When we email quotes, it sort of goes into a black hole. So it's a lot of work for you, but not a lot of reward. Instead, we want to try to quote on the phone, set a time to review options on the call, and just never email quotes until there's a conversation. Once there's a conversation, now you can bring it all together. If the client requests a quote, email it after the call, but let them know that you need to tighten up a few details to get them your most competitive pricing, and that requires you guys to reconnect. Obtain a date they expect to sign it or make a decision and follow up for 2 weeks every 2 days, both via phone and email. After the 2 weeks, you want to send the breakup email, which we can talk about in detail, but just going to let you know you're going to have to close the file. And you'll see probably about 50% of the people will either let you know they're not interested or they're going to move forward. So it's that kind of last step that just forces the issue. And next step is really asking for the business. So this can make people slightly uncomfortable, but that's why we have to practice, right? It's okay to ask for the business. Don't ever say, think about it and let me know. That's not a good way to handle it. Leave each call with defined next steps. So what exactly is going to happen? Who's going to do what? Have the options to move forward. So don't you agree we should get started? Or a conclusion statement like, would you like to pay in full or go on EFT? Since your renewal date is X, would you like to use the effective date or get started today? These are all great things that just sort of bring it to a conclusion that get the yeses going. You don't need to say, yes, I'd like the quote. Sometimes you need to get yes to the actions of how we're going to move forward to settle it up. So really that's, we're going to practice a lot on the wonderful things about closing those sales for those account rounds. So let's kind of get started talking about it.